Hello, today's video we have the following content.
Breaking news. Wang Haozhen, Zhai Yiying's celebrity romance exposed, and the ending is unexpected. If there's one drama recently that's both sweet and chilling, Hard to Flirt With is definitely on the list. On the surface, it's a sickeningly sweet, ambiguous relationship, but beneath lies a carefully crafted emotional game. You think you're watching a romance, but you're actually being led by the nose by your emotions. The true brilliance of Hard to Flirt With isn't in how close the kisses are or how flirtatious the dialogue, but in how it presents the two contemporary emotional models of direct approach and push-pull as a naked psychological confrontation. The male lead, played by Wang Haozhen, relentlessly attacks with an almost relentless approach, frequent displays of affection, forceful companionship, and no room for retreat. Seemingly affectionate, every step he takes crosses the other's psychological defenses. The female lead, played by Zhai Yiying, stands on the other end. She's not indifferent, but clear-headed, not unmoved, but knowing when to back down. Her aloofness wasn't a technique, but a form of self-protection. Unfortunately, in the narrative of idol dramas, this restraint is often misinterpreted as playing hard to get, packaged as a sweet treat to advance the plot. So the question arises, when insisting on forcing it clashes with insisting on not buying it, is this the art of push-pull in love, or a slow battlefield of emotional exhaustion? Many viewers say, I know the cliches, but I still get hooked. This is precisely what makes Hard to Flirt With so unsettling. It understands the emotional vulnerabilities of contemporary audiences too well: loneliness, the desire to be firmly chosen, the expectation of being favored. Thus, persistent pursuit is romanticized, boundaries are weakened, and refusal is seen as an obstacle to plot progression. But what about in reality? If you really encounter someone who doesn't respect your pace, constantly crossing boundaries and repeatedly testing you, would you still think it's deep affection? Or is it just that the camera filter is too gentle, making manipulation seem like infatuation? Returning to off-screen, the frequent dragging of Wang Haozhen and Zhai Yiying in the discussions of celebrity romances actually reflects this projection psychology. Viewers are too quick to extrapolate the push and pull dynamics in dramas to their own imaginings of real-life relationships, as if persistence alone can melt away all indifference. But reality never follows the typical romantic drama ending. What truly captivates in Hard to Flirt With isn't the romance, but the humanity itself. It appeals to your expectations, your identification, and your fantasy of being loved intensely. The sweetness is real, the thrill is real, but the exhaustion is equally real. When we pay the price for this relationship model, perhaps we should ask ourselves, are we truly indulging in love, or are we surrendering our emotional resources to a meticulously crafted psychological battle? This is the sharpest and most thought-provoking ending that Hard to Flirt With leaves its audience with. Therefore, you'll find that the true brilliance of Hard to Flirt With lies not in how many flirting techniques it teaches, but in its precise targeting of the most dangerous and ambiguous gray area in contemporary emotional relationships, where boundaries are blurred and obsessions are disguised as deep affection. Every time the male lead says "I won't let go," enhanced by the camera's visual language, it feels both fierce and sweet, and every time the female lead yields and restrains herself, it's romanticized as the prelude to finally being moved. But once you remove the filter, you'll find that this relationship wasn't an evenly matched approach from the start, but rather a tug-of-war of endurance and emotions. In reality, what truly moves people isn't "I can't live without you," but "I respect your no." But Hard to Flirt does the opposite, portraying unrespected persistence as an inevitable path to romance. So, while viewers exclaim "so sweet," "so crazy," they're subconsciously being instilled with a dangerous signal: if you're persistent enough, the other person will eventually give in. This is why many people feel an inexplicable sense of exhaustion after watching it. It's not that it's not sweet, but it's too familiar. That feeling of being constantly tested, repeatedly pulled in different directions, and led by emotions has already exhausted countless people in reality. But when it's replaced with handsome men and beautiful women, slow motion, and ambiguous background music, the wounds are covered up with sugar. Ultimately, Hard to Flirt With is more like a mirror. It doesn't reflect love itself, but rather our projection of love, a desire to be firmly chosen, yet a fear of losing boundaries, a yearning to be pursued passionately, yet an inability to bear the emotional burden that comes with it. In the drama, you can drag it out because the screenwriter has a safety net. In reality, no one will pay for your emotions. In the drama, you can get carried away because the ending is already written. In reality, Hard to Flirt With often has no twists and turns, only a slowly cooling heart. Perhaps truly mature love is never I insist on forcing it, nor you just won't accept it, but rather, I approach you, but without crossing the line. You're moved, but I don't force it. This, perhaps, is the gentlest and most sober subtext that Hard to Flirt with leaves for its audience. Therefore, those who should truly panic are never the ones who are rejected, but those self-indulgent love players who mistake ambiguity for signals and lingering feelings for promises. In the drama Hard to Flirt with, this meticulously edited, musically sounding, and slow-motion refined approach appears to be a clash of masters. However, in reality, it's just a repetitive, emotionally draining process. Consider those classic scenes, no explicit statements, no clear answers, relying entirely on eye contact, atmosphere, and unspoken understanding. While the audience holds their breath in the drama, in reality, onlookers just want to ask, can't they just talk things out? What adults fear most isn't rejection, but being strung along. Once the push-pull dynamic loses its balance, romance quickly inflates into anxiety. Ironically, this pattern often drains not the pursued person, but the one who willingly enters the game. Today they analyze the punctuation of a sentence, tomorrow they decipher the tone of an emoji, and the day after, they question their existence because the other person didn't reply immediately. On the surface, they appear calm, but inside, they're in turmoil. Emotions are like stocks, they watch the market constantly, their heart racing at the slightest fluctuation. No matter how sweet Hard to Flirt with is, it can't hide the reality. Truly healthy relationships never rely on guesswork. It doesn't rely on you enduring, it doesn't rely on me wearing myself down, and it doesn't rely on who breaks down first. Those who go the distance don't need extreme push-pull from the start, they have clear boundaries and genuine responses. So, watching dramas can be exciting, but don't treat them as tutorials. Push-pull in dramas creates tension. In reality, it's mostly exhausting. When love becomes a psychological battle requiring long-term acting and constant replays, it has long deviated from the true meaning of intimacy. After all, no one should waste their limited energy on a relationship where they never clarify things. Frankly, many times this tug-of-war isn't about dating, but about who can endure more, who can act better, and who will show weakness first. When liking can't be translated into a clear confession, when getting closer always requires retreating, and testing must be done with a facade of politeness, then sincerity is forced to change its role and become a bargaining chip in a game. You don't speak, I don't ask. You take a step forward, I take a half step back. You're cold for a second, I'm cold for 3 seconds. On the surface, it's a battle of wits between masters, but in reality, both are fleeing simultaneously. Love hasn't even taken hold, yet their acting skills are already masterful. Everyone has learned to manage their expressions, control their tone, and calculate the intervals between replies, breaking down emotions into strategies and compressing their initial attraction into controllable variables. In the end, even they themselves can't tell, am I waiting for you to approach, or waiting for you to surrender first? Even more cruelly, this kind of relationship easily creates the illusion that the longer the tug-of-war, the deeper the feelings. But the truth is often the opposite. People who truly want to be together can't dare to make the other person guess repeatedly. True sincerity naturally carries a touch of clumsy honesty. It's not good at maneuvering, nor does it have the patience to exhaust itself. So the answer to this confrontation may already be written in the details. If both sides are calculating costs, preserving face, and avoiding showing weakness, it's probably not an evenly matched love, but a standoff where neither side is willing to admit defeat. Once love becomes a game of who surrenders first, it's no longer fighting side by side, but sitting across a table from each other. And those who should truly reach out to each other are never waiting for the other to lose, but are willing to lay down their weapons together.
Thank you for watching the video. If this is your first time watching a video, please subscribe to the channel, like and leave your comments to help us develop your channel.